Marsha, the queen of Rome's comedy scene.
Oh, thank you. That's what they say. The queen.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm kind of sick of this weather because it's like we live in the UK.
Right.
Nonstop.
For a second today, it looked like the sun's going to come out, so I thought this is going to be perfect. It must be the time when you're arriving and everything, but
no, it's gone.
It disappeared, yeah.
I have not done the famous Italian thing to do when the season changes, cambio di stagione. And it's so for those who don't know what that means, when you change your clothes from one season to another,
right?
Because it's still cold and crap,
right?
And it's the end of May,
so it's your fault, basically.
It is my fault, yeah. Because apparently, in my country, my president thinks that we don't have environmental problems.
He's a comedian too, right?
I don't know if it's comedian is more as like Satan, but yes, let's just say.
So I saw on your Facebook profile it says, "How did I get here?"
Yes.
So how did you get here?
So I've got the parents are Calabrese. So Mama and Papa are from Cosenza.
Okay.
And as a child, I was told that the only place in the world that exists outside of where I was born, which is Cincinnati, Ohio, was Cosenza. That nothing else existed. All family vacations were in Cosenza. Everything amazing about food, history, culture is Cosenza.
Wow.
And so growing up, we went on vacation all the time, always to Cosenza, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had this Italianness, kind of bullied into me. And then I finished university, and I was curious to know what Italy was like sort of outside of Cosenza.
Right.
And so because the little Italian I spoke was Cosentino, which is the dialect of Cosenza.
Really?
And,
how does that sound like?
They're like, well, it's kind of, first of all, the Calabrian dialect, it's so funny because they sound like they have asthma. Like they're like, tutta post, ti piace, mitla d'ingiacca. Like they speak this very strange. I thought they had asthma, but that's just how they talk. Anyways, so the little Italian I did speak was like that. And so my mom's like, you have to learn appropriate Italian because you sound like a peasant from like the countryside. So I went to Perugia to study Italian. Did very little of that because it is a party town for students. But I fell in love with Italy because I had only known really Calabria, and Umbria is amazing. And so from there I kind of fell in love with Italy. And so Peru just got to be too small. And so then I ventured to Rome. But sometimes when I'm in Rome, I'm like, how did I get here? It's just because it's a little bit crazy to live here.
How long ago is that?
Now it's like 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long
Crazy.
time. Now I'm like confused as to who I am, where I'm from, because I'm like this Romana, Cosentina, Americana.
So I invited you because you're quite an interesting person. You do a lot of stuff.
Thanks.
You have a lot of projects going on.
Yes.
And basically, you invented the international comedy scene.
Yeah.
Like you started the first comedy and the only comedy club I understand.
Yes,
in Rome.
in English, because now the Italian scene is really growing. It is just now there's like Netflix special with Francesco De Carlo.
Right.
So basically, in 2009, I started to get into theater. And but I've always, it's funny because I would do theater and I would audition for like a dramatic role and people would laugh.
Okay.
Because I just naturally have this sort of, I guess, air of being funny. And so a friend of mine who's an actor was like, you should do more comedy things. I'm like, yeah, I've always been curious about stand-up comedy. And he was like, but I don't know how you would do that here in Rome in English. Because, I speak Italian, but at that level to do stand-up, which now I do stand-up in Italian, but back then I wasn't ready for that. And he's like, well, just start it. I'm like, oh. So I did.
Great.
I just started at the Abbey Pub, really, really small room, like barely fit 30 people. And anybody could do anything related to comedy, improv, sketches. And then I started doing stand-up from there. And then every month we'd get more and more people, more people interested in performing. more audience. And then we had to keep moving locations every so many years because our audience expanded because there was nothing else. There was no comedy. And back then, even the stand-up scene for Italians was new. Stand-up is a new art form in Italy. So I had a lot of Italians who wanted to try in English. So people like Francesco De Carlo, anybody that follows Italian stand-up, Edoardo Ferrari, Saverio Raimondo, they all kind of, when I started, would do my show in English. God, there were more than that. I can't, Daniele Fabri, anybody that follows comedy. And so, nothing. Now we've just 10 years, 90 shows. We're in a great location in Ostiense. It's called Makai Surf and Tiki Bar. It's super cool Hawaiian themed bar.
The place got a very cool vibe. Yeah, you got a nice location.
It's a great. It's like ever since we moved there, it's actually a smaller space than the one before. We were at Teatro Duz, which unfortunately closed. It was our best venue because it was a comedy club, founded by actors, and it had such a great vibe. But they closed because they couldn't pay their rent, because their rent went up. And then so we moved there, and this is a fun atmosphere because it feels like you're performing in a living room. And so, and we have a show this Friday. If I can plug that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this Friday, doors open at 8, €15. You get a drink, food, show. The show starts at 9:15. And we have one more show in June, the last Friday in June, and then we're done for the summer.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So all the shows are proper shows. So you invite the stand-up comedians. Yeah. They are, you probably get to know them before or go through the material. Are they all locals or do you also get people from
I have
outside?
lots of visiting comics who are like, I'm vacationing in Rome or I want to come to Rome anyways. Can I be in the show?
Right.
And that is really the funnest aspect of the show is because our shows are locals, all different kinds, Italians, Mexican, British, Irish, we are all nationalities, Italians, tons of Italians, but we tend to, obviously when you do comedy you talk about what you know, and what we know is Rome, and after a while talking about Rome does get I'm a little bit tired because it's 10 years, 90 show, and I can't hear any more about politics, and Attack doesn't work, and Italian men.
I didn't notice that.
You didn't notice Attack or Ama. No, we have some political issues in Rome. No big deal. And so when new people come in, they bring this new air. Like we had 2 Brits last month, and of course, when they talk about Brexit, which is something that we don't talk about because we're not involved in it, and it was really a funny aspect. And this month we have an Irish girl. She hasn't confirmed though, so I'm not gonna plug that, but she's in town filming. So nice. That's fun. But usually I have a set regular group who always do the shows. And then I always bring in some new people who just want to try, because that's the whole purpose of the show, was to get people to try stand up. But now that the show, we have a proper audience and they pay €15. I don't want to have just all amateurs.
Right.
So I have half, my regulars and half amateurs, and sometimes an occasional visiting person.
Okay, great. So there's an open mic aspect to it to a certain extent. Because I was wondering, because musicians, we have it quite easy. Yeah. We just get together in a room, we play guitar, we rehearse, and that's it. Yeah. But as a comedian, you must rehearse in front of a live audience. Yeah. So how do you do that?
Well, that's the problem with Rome's comedy scene, which is now changing because there are other shows happening around the city. But comedians get better, like musicians, practicing, because maybe a joke doesn't work one time because of that audience, but it might work in another audience. Or maybe the joke needs to be tweaked in a certain way, or maybe words need to be changed. And you don't know that until you have a lot of stage time. So the problem with my show is that it is only once a month, and I don't ask. If they want to send me bits that they're going to do, and I can tell them, maybe you should do it this way. I can give advice. Other than that, I have no idea what's going to go up on my stage, which sometimes is scary. But I have to say, in the last, 5 years, I don't really have a problem. I trust most of the people I get are, pretty, because they know that the show has an audience that pays €15. So I get a lot of I have no problem. Sometimes it's material that doesn't work.
I mean, I guess if somebody understands comedy, you understand also that comedians naturally also bomb sometimes. I mean, it's just part of the whole experience. Even the high-level pros that you see on Netflix, that you see that fill out stadiums, they still... I mean, they go out all the time. They have a good scene, maybe they have a better scene in the States or in England, and so they can try the material more often. But if you watch it, secretly recorded material, often some of the jokes are horrible. And it takes them a year or two. That's why they usually don't publish them before.
Exactly. No, exactly. Then, No, comedy, the only way that you can get better is if you keep doing the same. And it does get tiring.
Right.
But the more you do the same material, the more you're like, oh, this works this way. And sometimes, a lot of times... it's the audience. I mean, I have a one-woman comedy show that I've done, I don't know, a bunch of times in Rome and other places in Italian. And everyone, usually it's really good. I did it in Milan and I bombed.
Okay.
Because the audience, it wasn't their thing. You know, so sometimes it's not your material. Sometimes it's just the audience. It's just this audience didn't think maybe my Rome jokes and Calabrian things were funny.
Of course, yeah, right.
So I had a horrible experience at Zelig.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Theater. Yeah. And I completely bombed. They just were not happy. They were just, from the moment I opened my mouth, the audience just was like,
How you react in that situation? Like,
do you just want to kill yourself? It's like digging your grave.
Okay.
Every minute that goes by, you're like, it is excruciating.
You get aware of every breath in the room and everybody.
Oh my God, it was really bad. What happens is then you know, if you're a pro and I'm a sort of pro, you just, you know, you calm down and you breathe through it and you change how you want to go with the show. But I wasn't able to do that. I was dying.
And was it a long bit that you had to do? Or?
You had to do an hour.
An hour. Ouch.
There were moments it wasn't horrible, and then I was like, oh, I got them. And then I would lose them. So I don't, it was a very strange audience.
I don't envy comedians, because for you, it's you, and that's it.
It is.
Because as a musician, I mean, even if the crowd isn't responsive, they might be listening, you just play your set, and some people might still enjoy it, and you get through it, and that's fine, and you don't get out physically hurt or psychologically hurt.
Exactly.
But as a comedian, I think...
oh, no, it's like free falling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is like free falling. And I literally, for probably, I don't know how many years, every time I went up on stage, I felt like I wanted to die.
Okay.
But then... the funny thing, and every stand-up says that, like, you want to die until then you hit a moment where then you know how to react when things aren't going well. When you've had so much stage time, you know what to do. Like, the Milan was a very extreme situation. Other times, I have jokes that don't work, but I'm so calm in the moment that I'm able to change and go in a different direction.
Right.
But in the beginning, you're not like that. You just go on stage and you just... spit out what you've written, and it's not fun, but the thrill is when people laugh.
Right.
And that's what gives you, it's like a drug. You miss that, you know, you're like, oh, I feel so good. It's like hitting the lottery, because you're like, I just connected with people I don't know, and they think I'm funny. And that's what gets you going.
Amazing.
And you want more and more. And so it's, well, and it's like any kind of art form, but it's more in stand-up, because if you hit that laugh, you're like, wow, I just connected with an audience that I don't know, a majority of them, and they like me.
Great. Do you still get stage fright before a show? Or
I still get nervous, but no, because I have 2 one-woman shows, and I think that was the threshold. And like, if I can stand in front of an audience and talk about my personal stuff for an hour, I don't care anymore. So I don't as much, no.
Talking about your one-woman shows, I mean, you told me before about the very interesting particular project that you're working on. Maybe you want to elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, so I have 2 one-woman shows. One is called Marshas So-Called Life, and it's stand-up. And I talk about my Calabrian parents and living in Rome and dating and Tinder, and I do it in English and Italian. Then I have another show, which is a little bit more serious and for a social cause, is that I unfortunately have a blood illness called thalassemia, and in Italy they call it Mediterranean anemia, because it actually, mostly Italians, Greeks, anywhere in the Mediterranean there's a high percentage of people that have it. And so a friend of mine, go ahead.
How does it manifest? Like what does
so you're born, it's genetics. So if your parents have the trait, which they didn't know, usually now people are tested when parents want to have, when a couple want to have babies, they have tests done to see genetically, like, oh, look, you both could have this kind of child with this kind of illness. Back then, in Calabria, they didn't really test for this. And so my parents have the minor trait. So 2 minors make a major. And so I was born this way. And so basically, I have to get blood transfusions every 3 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I get recharged like a car, pretty much. And a comedian friend about 6 years ago said, this is your story. That's what's going to push you as an artist and a comedian. I'm like, yeah, but it's not funny. She's like, well, we can make it funny. I was like, I don't know how funny I think it is. And she's like, well, no, you're not making fun of it. You're going to just make it light so people can, connect with you and understand like what it's like to have and why it's important to know about and what they can do about it. And so I did, and that was the peak, I think, of my comedy career. It is not totally funny. There are moments where it's, it can be quite, let's say, dramatic in a good way because we want to get the point across. And that's what really exploded my sort of performing career because it kind of leaked out, and I got into Uno Mattina, radio DJ. I started traveling with it. I got called to go to Bolzano, Napoli. Wow. I was going all over to schools and theaters doing the show. And it has a huge... And basically I talk about having this illness and how everybody has something terrible in their lives and how we can try to just... There's nothing we can do about it. We all have something that we're dealing with, and we have to, at the end, not make fun of it, but just laugh about it because it's not going to go away. And then so I talk about how we use, comedy. I use comedy to kind of help, and the importance of donating blood because I really would not be here if people didn't share their love. And so, So that's the big, I think, show that really pushed my, I think, comedy career.
Did you ever record a show? Like, did you ever think of doing like a DVD special or something? Film the whole thing?
I have it on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, all my stuff is on YouTube. Yeah.
Did you ever think of contacting Netflix? Because I think
really?
your story,
I don't know
your story is quite. I'm sure there's somebody.
I want to do a TED Talks.
Okay.
Anybody that listens to this has a contact to TED. It would be a great, because TED Talks, I got
the founder of TED Talk on LinkedIn, but I think everybody has her on LinkedIn, so probably that doesn't help much. But I can see if she responds.
All right, because my show it's funny, but it's very inspirational. Like, people usually leave going, wow, like, that's what an interesting way to make something so tragic funny, you know what I mean? And so I thought TEDx for sure. As Netflix goes, I don't know, because have you ever seen theater taped? It's not good.
Well, it depends though. Like they might have some tips too how to produce it properly, and
I would be totally
they seem
open.
To be right now really in the moment where they give a chance to a lot of people to try this stuff. So, and your story is quite unique, and you're the founder of Rome's comedy club scene. So you should.
I know. I would love. That's why I'm kind of in this moment of like, it's 10 years, and Rome's Comedy Club has given me so much. But now it's time to go a step further in what I do, and I'm not quite sure that direction. And so these are all, good ideas that I need to sit and think about, because I think my story is important to be heard, because it helps, especially we're in high schools. The kids love it. They want to take selfies because people go through a lot of crap in life. I don't know, divorced parents, sexuality, illnesses, mental problems, also like depression. I mean, now the big thing is like all these people are coming out with, I'm depressed, I suffer from anxiety, and people are scared to talk about it because they feel like, but people are going to judge me. And that's my whole show is about, like, fuck it, we all have something. So not everybody has to come out like I do on stage, but let's do this.
But I think motivational stuff is always very needed and always high in demand.
Exactly.
For example, the anxiety. What do you think this comes from now? Is there more awareness of people analyzing themselves, or is it the younger generation that grew up with social media and so they're more anxious because they don't get to practice anymore with real humans, and they are in front of the
I think it's both. I think one, yes, I think it's the life that we live, and that now it's thank God more acceptable to talk about it.
Right.
Because look at it, we there's the suicide rate is look at last year, famous people committing suicide. Right. So, and they're older people, like Anthony Bourdain, who's, I think, an amazing person.
And nobody saw it coming, apparently. It's crazy.
No, but he suffered all his life with addiction. And now addiction also is another huge, now we're getting to understand that it's a mental problem. It's not like, I want to just, I don't know, do heroin on a Friday night. No, it's an actual problem, because if somebody's going to that extent, they are not obviously well inside to do the drugs and stuff, because they're clearly wanting to escape. And so there's addiction. And so I think people are now talking about, I definitely think life it's a lot. It's a lot. Right. Everything is too much, too fast. But that's just the direction we're going.
We're also very vulnerable, because we automatically somehow put all our lives on a silver plate and show it to everybody. Exactly. And so we make ourselves more vulnerable too. And then we get judged by likes or by comments. And I think some of us don't react very well to it, especially if you're younger, I suppose, because you still have not really created a character. You haven't fostered a character yet. You haven't gone through all the experiences. You cannot handle every situation yet. Everything's more dramatic.
Of course.
And it's
you're afraid
dangerous,
of being
actually.
Judged. It took me 30 years. My show also talks about that. I never told anyone about my illness. I lived 30 years because my mom said, maybe don't tell anyone because they could make fun of you or make you feel different.
So you felt ashamed, or you just...
Yeah, and I just thought, no, I don't want to share that with people because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with answering questions or people going, ew, do you have like 8? Like, I just don't want to deal with it. And so I didn't, and the show talks about this, and I moved to Rome, and there was a blood shortage, and my first time I had to have a transfusion in Rome, they said, you don't have blood for your appointment tomorrow. And I'm like, what? Because in America, I never thought about it, that blood comes from someone that donated whatever. And I'm like, excuse me? I go, oh my God. And I literally woke up at 30 years of age, and I remember the doctor going, if you have any friends that want to donate, I'm like, friends that donate, but they don't know. And I literally had a coming out moment. I was like, shit, I have to tell people now because I live off of people. And so I had this awakening of like, I can't keep things. Secrets are bad. And so I even talked about that in the show. And that helps with, young people. I'm not saying people need to come up on stage like I do and be like, I have depression. No, but if people are talking about it, like, such and so needs to be on medicine for panic attacks or depression or whatever.
Right.
It seems not sort of normal that someone could be like, I don't feel very well. Maybe I should talk about it because they have problems.
Well, it brings you on a path of actually learning about it and understanding where it comes from. Because because apparently there are situations where your brain has certain assets or chemical disbalances, and so the depression is chemical, and so you need medicine, and there's no other way you can fix that. But then if maybe you just broke up with your boyfriend and maybe your father died and you had a tough time, it might be also normal that you are kind of feeling like shit for a while, So there are all these things that you have to learn about yourself and how you react to them, but it takes time. It's a path. You have to learn about it.
Absolutely. No,
absolutely. So talking about it, I think is very important. Being open
that's
about
what I'm saying. It makes it like, okay, I feel like that. So let me, I don't know, reach out. Even going to therapy. Yeah. Going to therapists. Back in the day in Italy, going to therapy seemed like only crazy people. Now it's becoming more diffused, and people are doing something about it because it's more, it's talked about. That's all. And so I think it's important that, a show like mine gives light, and it can show, especially for the young people, because that's the toughest time. Think about when you were young. You're just awkward. You're full of like weird hormones, testosterone. You don't know who you are. You feel weird, and then you don't want to be judged or made fun of. You want to be part of a group. You want to look like everyone else. Just look at like young teenagers. They all dress alike because they all.
That's true. I noticed though that it's a particular thing in Italy, or in Rome at least, that they dress very much alike.
More in Rome. If you go to Via del Corso on Saturday, it's literally like if there's short jeans that are popular, every girl has short jeans. Yeah. I think in Rome it's very much like that. Because I don't know why. Because in America you definitely have different types of people.
Yes.
You have the trendy people who would wear whatever's in style. The weird artist people that are like hipsters. We have that here, but for some reason you don't see that as much.
I mean, especially within a French friend group, that everybody's dressing kind of the same. Like I was raised in Germany, and so everybody wants to be individual, and by being an individual, they still copy other styles. But one is maybe a Rastafari, one is a hippie, one is a business person, and you all mix up and dress different. And here it seems more like they all go to H&M together one Friday evening. And
I never understood that because
I don't know.
Yeah, even me growing up, I'm from a small city, Cincinnati, but, even in my high school, everybody wanted to be whatever group they're in. Right. So you have the sporty people, the hip-hop people. We had all these categories of how you dress, but here it does seem like...
Maybe there's a stronger need to be accepted in society. Maybe there's so much chaos that they kind of feel order in that or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
I wouldn't know. I would have to get a psychologist on the show one day.
There we go. Yes, that's true. I think that's a good idea.
Let's find out about it. But yeah. But I think it's a very important thing that you do. And as you said, it's very important to raise awareness about, it's your specific case, but generally about all kinds of things that might be lingering under the surface, and talk it out. And maybe you might find other people who share the same thing by doing that. Because very often it's like, by the way, I have something similar. I didn't know that. Yeah. But why not? Because we didn't talk about it before.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's important in this day and age because we are all going through a lot. Politically, the whole world is a kind of a mess right now. I hate to be negative, but, politically we're not doing very well.
Did you follow the elections here or the European elections?
I did not. I can vote here and I have voted here, but I was not informed enough on who to vote for, and I thought I'm not going to vote just to vote. Okay. I don't agree with that. And so I didn't vote, but it doesn't look very good.
You had the elections yesterday, yeah. We got the far-right party winning.
God, it's just terrible. Yeah, the whole world is going in a very strange direction.
I would like to also invite some politically inclined people to understand a bit more about it. Both sides, exactly. Because I have a feeling there's a lot of exaggeration in painting the other person as the extreme evil, both on the right and the left. And so I would like to see what's really behind all the rhetoric and the tweets and all the crap,
Oh my, that would be
because it's really confusing. It's very confusing. So much information.
It's so much information, but it's just really sad. I went to America last week. My brother graduated in his master's. I went to Chicago. Yes, took you. And America is sad. Yeah. It's so divided, and there's so much you can't say this and you can't say that. You don't want to
the political correctness creepiness.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's really crazy.
Wow.
And it's just not what it used to be. His slogan was "Make America Great," and he just made America crap.
Okay.
It's just a sad place. But all the countries are headed in this conservative, strange way. Look at England with Brexit. What was that? In Italy, I don't know what's wrong. People in the South voting for Salvini. Do you know that Salvini doesn't like you? But okay.
I have a feeling. I have zero political knowledge, and I really just go by observation and by feeling. And I have a feeling that a lot of people feel, because I come from my parents are, I believe, very conservative. I'm very liberal, so that's why I left very early. But I have a feeling a lot of people, they feel like a need of order within a chaotic world.
And that's what's happening.
And traditionally, let's not talk about the far right, but the conservatives usually are very good business people. They're very good orderly people. Whereas liberals generally are very good in inventing things and starting a business, maybe, And so they, I think, crave for some order within all this chaotic, within the chaotic world we live in. And maybe they just didn't find it on one side of the aisle, and so they go to the other one and take into account or just close their eyes to some of the extreme borders that you see, that to the extreme positions regarding immigration. And so, I guess people just crave for order in a way, and so we have to be careful, though, that we don't go beyond that that wall.
I totally agree. I think that's one part, and I think the other part is just the misinformation that is given, and things like Fox News. That's America. I don't know in Italy. I can't speak on Italy, but even for the Brexit, I know that because I followed that a lot. But there was just a lot of statistics and information that was not correct.
Right.
But it is given to the public, and they believe it, and they're like, oh, our jobs are being taken by migrants, and healthcare is gonna be worse because we're gonna let people in, and we need to build a wall because Mexicans are raping people and are selling drugs. Like, if this is all false information, and so, but if the politicians have a way with the news, they start with propaganda, and you have people that believe it,
right?
Because they don't think these are people who are older, live in the countryside. Not that in the countryside there's anything wrong, but they perhaps are not curious people, and they just kind of listen to the news and believe it. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's true. Migrants are going to take my jobs and steal the health care.
Right. Well, I believe there's definitely problems all over the place. Here we have the immigrants coming in through the Mediterranean. And there's also, I'm sure there's problems at the border, real problems at the Mexican border. But I think that...
For sure.
I think that probably a problem is that whoever was in government before didn't properly address them, and so a lot of people felt pissed off, and then of course one side took advantage of that and blew it up and made it look like doomsday is coming. That's one thing. And then probably a lot of it was also this disparage between the big cities and the countryside, because there's kind of a lot of people leave the countryside because they feel it's shit, and so maybe in their attitude later they treat them like shit. And I think this is the second thing, that a lot of the vote that happened was just a big finger up to so I think it's a mix of those two things. I don't think that people are bad generally or became more racist or conservative. Actually, the more you call them racist, the more they feel like, why are you calling me racist? Because I vote for the right.
Right.
But let's wait for the next elections. We're going to do the whole thing again.
Exactly.
So they're just waiting for that.
Exactly.
So I think
I agree.
It's a bit of a mix of all these things.
Yeah.
That's why my very bad political analysis.
No, me too. I'm not even that. I have to say. I mean, I
have no clue.
No, me too. I try not to engage in political conversation. Like my little brother who just graduated, he's super political, and he can give you stats and history and things like that. I kind of just listen to what he says, and most of the time agree, but I don't even engage in politics because I can't defend myself. I don't have the information.
Right.
I don't know that much. I know generally, though, what I feel and what I see. I can give you my observation.
Right.
And that's it. But it is, I think the world is kind of just in a funny place. And I think because of the funny place, it's kind of creating strange air in the world. And I think the technology and everything's so fast and quick and changing is creating sort of, a lot more mental problems and addiction and
everything gets quicker, as you said. And I mean, that's why I enjoy watching podcasts, also doing podcasts, but I also enjoy watching them a lot because that's a completely different format and idea behind the whole thing as compared to the short bits that you see on TV or in on certain shows, where it's just about yelling at each other, talking in slogans. You have a few minutes. If you get accused of something, you have just 20 seconds to kind of react to that in a very smart, funny way, and that's how the whole conversation goes. So people don't get anything out of it.
No, it's true.
And if you watch some podcasts, political podcasts or whatever it is, and people sit down for an hour, 2, 3, you really get to know the other person. Exactly. And very often you realize, that guy is not a completely socialist, Marxist who wants to take over the world, and the other guy is not a complete fascist who, they're human beings in the end.
Right.
They might have different views how to solve certain problems, but and you only get to know them by really these long conversation formats.
About
exactly.
Yeah. And then learning from each other.
But I'm afraid that this goes away also in everyday life. Like when I go to pubs very often, I mean, a pub maybe is not the best place to go into a political conversation.
People are very open.
Exactly.
Maybe too much, right?
Especially after a few pints of Guinness.
Yes.
You don't want to go there.
That's true. But I think that's what, a lot of people try to do is to sit and talk. Let's talk about this. Let's learn. I may not agree with you, you're right wing, but let me hear what you have to say. But a lot of times it's not like that. Like you said, political talk shows ends up being yelling and people are screaming. But like a podcast is it's talking.
Right.
Instead of,
I must say, actually,
discussion.
I enjoy actually watching also right-wing politicians or commentators. Like I watch sometimes Ben Shapiro show. Ben Shapiro is supposed to be this extremely right-far. He's he's orthodox, an Orthodox Jew who has very conservative opinions. But I enjoy watching him because even what he says sometimes makes sense, or at least if he argues it very well, then I'd like to see how the response is on some left channel, And
of course, that's great. I think everybody should do that. That's normal. You have to hear both sides so you can form your own opinion.
Right.
So.
Anyway, so what other projects are you working on right now? What's the future? What does the future hold?
Well, that's a very good question. The future is I'm going to try to get some shows. I'm going to expand Rome's Comedy Club into Naples and Florence.
That sounds great and exciting.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have a friend, American friend, and her fiance is in the military. And there's a lot of expats in Naples. And so me and my comedy partner, his name is Frank. He's great. We do a lot of things together because he's very good as an MC and working with the crowd. And I have the material. I'm the comedian. And so we're going to start out. We're going to go to Naples June 15th. I'm not sure, the pub is not confirmed. And we're going to do a show. I'm going to do my one-woman comedy show to kind of start opening the door of perhaps doing something in Naples.
Breaking sounds nicer than opening sounds nicer than breaking it with
breaking, that sounds bad. Yeah, that sounds very bullying.
Although it could be fun,
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm trying to find a contact for Florence because both cities are full of expats and not touched with any kind of English comedy. So I'd like to start and bring in my show and then see what we can do for like a monthly, get some locals to do the comedy show.
Right.
And that's it because now it's the summer. So it's kind of the time.
Everything breaks down here in summer,
doesn't it? People write me, comedians who are visiting, they're like, oh, I'm coming in July or August. I'm like, we're closed for this summer. And they're like, why? I was like, because it's hot. Isn't there air conditioning? I'm like, yeah, I don't really know. It's just Italy. We just shut.
Air conditioning costs money, So.
Exactly. And people, it's true. I know, because you don't want to be outside because it's so hot.
Right.
So I'm like, so you should want to be inside and see something. But no, we shut. So basically in the summer, June, I'm still active. I got the Naples show, one more Rome's comedy show. And then July and August, I'm going to sit and think about where to take Rome's comedy to another level. Something's got to change. After 10 years, 90 shows, it's amazing.
I completely get that, yeah.
But you got to change it up, or it's just the same thing. And people that come will get bored, and you get bored.
And you burn out, as we said before. It's very, very risky. It's very easy to burn out if you don't change something. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll be changing the formula. I just got to work on that this summer. Not quite sure what. So,
did you ever think about collaborating with other Rome comedy clubs in Italy eventually? Creating like a network, but there are not really any.
There isn't. And the Italians are I have to say, the Italians are not fun to work with. They're very closed. They're not, they're very competitive here. I haven't, I don't want to be back talking about people, but my project was so open, from the beginning. Anybody that wanted to do comedy, Italians, Chinese, French, whoever, if you got something funny to say, come on, say. But I live in Italy, and now it's 10 years, and I allowed so many Italians in my show. But probably I can count one time somebody asked me to be, because I perform in Italian. I'm actually funnier, I think, in Italian because I make mistakes speaking. Right. I speak this sort of, Americanized Italian with some Calabrian and Roman. And, they're not very open. And it's still very male dominated in Italy, the comedy scene.
The comedy scene, okay.
In America, they have this problem, but it's changing a lot now. Now it's very half-half, right? In Italy, it's got a long way to go because it just started, so it's normal. For some reason, male comedians exist more than women. I have not.
Why do you think that is? You think they just are more like maybe comedy has more of a male audience, or is it just?
No,
going out there, or is it
the audience?
Is it a part of being judged that is maybe
it's part of being judged. I remember a good friend of mine who's the one who helped me do my one-woman show about my illness. She was a comic. She was a comedian in Los Angeles, then met her husband in Italy and moved and gave up her career. Anyways, she gave me all my tips to perfect my craft and stand-up. She says, remember, women are not as funny when they speak about their bodies, like being fat or like self-deprecating.
Isn't that the shtick of Amy Schumer?
But she broke that, exactly. Right. Yeah. And women aren't funny when they're vulgar. Okay, because she comes from the comedy scene probably 10 years before now.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, and Amy Schumer broke all those down. She's like, I'm going to talk about my vagina. I'm going to talk about being fat, ugly, and she did it. She broke those walls down. But you still hear a lot of people saying that they prefer male comedians. And male comedians can talk about disgusting things, and for some reason, it's okay.
But that's both women and men who prefer to... Okay.
Yes. If you ask the average woman, who are your favorite comedians, half the time, and I do it too, asking who my favorite comedians are. They're men.
Right.
I like Amy Schumer. She gets old, though. I love Eddie Izzard, Ricky Gervais.
Oh, yeah, I love Ricky Gervais. Oh, my God. I love Louis C.K., but he kind of got sidelined there for
Louis C.K. I love Louis C.K.
I do. I really hope he comes back, though. Like, I think he should apologize a bit more, and people should give him the chance also to redeem himself.
Hiding. Yeah, I know Robin Williams. And so I'm the first. Why is that? Well, first of all, definitely because there weren't very many women comedians until now. So of course you're gonna like more male. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. But especially now in Italy, because the comedy scene has just started. I mean, how many stand-up? There are a lot of comedic actresses. But in the stand-up scene, there are very few. So I think maybe that's probably, I don't know, maybe that could be a reason why I haven't really been invited. But the Italians are a very closed circle.
Is the stand-up different in Italy as compared, like the humor? Is it?
Oh,
do you feel it's different?
Is totally different.
Because I feel like it's. I mean, I haven't watched much of the Netflix specials now,
but you have to. Now that I've been on your show, I suggest as homework.
Okay.
I'm curious what you think. You should watch the Romans who have a special. Francesco De Carlo and Eduardo Ferrari. I'm proud of them. I don't know. Because I started with them and they have a Netflix special.
Should I see if we can bring it up here?
Yeah. These are in Italian, but Francesco has now gotten big also in England. He does stand up in English, and he's just kind of doing really well also in England. So, I think Comedy Central, Italy, they have a lot of stand-up shows. I think the stand-up scene is... so comedy in general, of course, is related to culture. And so what is funny, a lot of times, what is funny to you growing up Italian, but you're also a mishmash. But for example, classic example, my boyfriend is from Basilicata, and we'll watch a movie. We just watched an Italian movie yesterday, and he's cracking up, and I was like, that's just not funny.
You're right. I get that very often myself. I don't know what it is, though. Like, it's the humor here is so much more...
It's very simplistic and slapstick.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be like, oh, let's talk about this woman's ass. Oh, right? Mm-hmm. We came up with, the Brits are really good at self-deprecating, right? Which you make fun of yourself. Yeah, like, I don't know, what Ricky Gervais does all the time. Like, I drink a lot of beer and... I don't even know. I can't do self-deprecating for them, but the Italians and very ironic. But the most important thing about like British comedy, which I really love, is that sort of they just make fun of that. They make it. Have you ever seen any Ricky Gervais shows? Like
all of them.
All of them. Half the time you're like, no, don't do that. Don't say that, because they push this like this awkward feeling. Like
he creates pressure, like he pushes, and then he laughs it off with his very unique way, and then you just explode into laughing.
There's a great show called Peep Show, which I suggest that you also watch. And there's this nerdy character, and he's just half the time you're like, oh my God, don't say that, and he does. But it's so funny because they just push that embarrassment. Right. Whereas Italians don't make fun of themselves; they make fun of the situation.
It's a bella figura they have to maintain,
That's exactly it. They would never. You would never lose the presence.
Right.
Yeah, you can't make fun of yourself. That's embarrassing because it's about how you look and you got to act a certain way. So a lot of times, if you watch Francesco or Eduardo's show, they talk about political stuff or Romans. So they talk about exterior. Francesco, though, has studied a lot of British comedy, so a lot of his stuff is self-deprecating. He makes fun of how he has ears like Dumbo and so things like that. But it's the Italians in general. No, Enrico Brignani, I think, is really funny. Do you watch any of his stuff?
No, the Italian stuff, unfortunately, I have not gotten into it much yet. I should probably if you're living in Italy.
Well, now that hopefully
I'm still catching up on all the Italian musicians. I was raised in Germany, so I have to still catch up on all that.
Okay, yeah. So it's not so important stand up, but Enrico is Roman, and I think he's funny because he talks, but he doesn't talk about himself. Again, he talks about living in Rome, and it's observational, right, more than a sort of interior thing. So I think that's the most important. That's the difference. But it's cultural. I sit, like I said, with my boyfriend. He's laughing, and I'm like, that's not funny. But yes, you don't understand. Because in Basilicata, it's all cultural. I didn't live it.
If the Italian humor were English, you think it would fly in the States? Or you think half of them would be arrested for the political correctness?
Oh my God, yes.
Because that's what I think sometimes. Especially when I go down to visit Sicily, where my father's from, it's like... I mean, I can laugh about certain things because I understand where they come from. I know the people. I know they're not bad people. I know I know.
Yes.
But if somebody does not know and they hear certain jokes...
Yes, it's not... we have a long way to come. Yeah, no, I can't remember. I think... Francesco De Carlo, who's an amazing comedian, but he tried to do Harvey Weinstein joke to an audience full of American women. I don't remember the joke, but I remember it did not work because it was too soon and it was too anti-women kind of thing. And probably in Italian, if he did the same joke, probably no one would think twice. Right. But because we have a long way in Italy.
Or if you would have done a self-deprecating thing, going too soon in the end, actually making fun of that, that
exactly. Yeah, no, that's definitely. And the more south, I can imagine in Sicily, I think the worse racial, racist and sexist comments.
I mean, they're not people amongst themselves, working class people. They are very popolari. They're very, direct, and they say certain things that you would often think
and you're like, oh, that's bad.
Never repeat that outside of the house.
Exactly. And in America, you would be killed. So probably,
And that's the thing. They kill you on social media. Anything you ever touch, anything you ever want to touch or are trying to touch in the future is going to be over.
Exactly.
It's bye-bye. Bye-bye to that.
I know. So, we got a long way in Italy, I think. To be politically correct.
Right. I hope it never happens. But I think it starts already.
It is. I saw a great movie this weekend, Bangla.
I saw a poster that you sent out.
Yes! Oh my God, I loved it.
What neighborhood does it play? Tor Pignatara, right?
Near here, right? It's beautiful. Oh. Well, they did a really good job with the jokes and showing this side of Italy, Rome. Here we have this Bangladesh kid.
Right.
And he's not Bangladesh. He's Roman. He speaks Romano, right? And he shows this side, but then, his family's very Bangladesh, and, he has to follow the religion and only be married to a Bangladesh woman. But then he shows this side, but then he lives in Rome, and, it's just, everybody should see it. I have to say, because Italian movies sometimes disappoint me. The Italian acting is a little over dramatic. I think
you don't like the Christmas movies they bring out every year. How do you call it? Cinema panettone.
Cinema panettone. Why is it called? Yeah. Oh, it's so bad. There's so many bad movies I can't watch. Italian cinema. There's so much good stuff, but then there's so much bad. But really bad. Just over the top storylines. The acting is just over the top.
I think that it's not even bad that there are bad movies. It's just to take themselves so serious that they can't even say, it's so horrible. Let's make let's label it a B movie and make fun of it and just become something culturally funny, But they insist. They can take it so serious.
What's the one? It's I don't know. There's the North and the South. Those movies Andando verso. I don't even know now. There's been done a million times.
I think the original was French and they copied the concept from the. I don't know.
It's so bad. Yeah, those are the bad movies. But this movie is great because it's almost like a documentary style. It's very simple. And the scenes are amazing because, I live near here.
Okay.
You would love it because it's all pretty much shot here. And you see these, you just see Rome's not typical center of Rome. You see, the sort of rough side, which is, and I love it because he makes fun. He's like, Torpignatada has three types of people. You have the Indians and the Bangladesh. You have the old Romani who've never left, and then you have the hipsters.
Oh, God.
And then he shows the hipsters with the bikes and their rolled cigarettes, and it's fantastic. I think this movie is worth seeing if you live in Rome. I think if you don't live in Rome, you're like, who cares? Right.
All right.
You have to live in Rome to appreciate it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So and
so no new projects. What else can I tell you? I don't know. What else can I tell you? Follow Rome's Comedy Club to see what happens. Yeah, I don't know.
Did you also do other acting besides stand up or?
No, just that. I have my 2 one-woman shows. No, I don't really have time. And once you do stand up, it's very hard to do theater where you have to memorize lines, and because you know what it is, it's almost like anarchy when you do stand up, because once you find your voice and it works, it's very hard to be someone else. So I am so me now on stage, loud, crazy, whatever, that I'd have a hard time doing theater, even though I really enjoyed it before I did stand up. I did enjoy the very few theater shows I did. But now I have so much freedom.
Right. And
when you do theater, there is not freedom. You're the director or film. The director wants you to say it like this, and you have to say it like this. And I have this rebellious side because I do stand up. So, I say it I say it to how the audience would like me to say it, of course, taking into consideration. So to do theater, I think I would be like, oh God. So bored.
How do you keep yourself going though? Because I imagine a lot of the stand-up is late at night.
Yes, I do English.
So there's you get up early in the morning and do.
Yeah, I do. I teach. So luckily at the moment I'm only doing a few shows a month. So I have Rome's Comedy Club, which is only once a month, and then every once in a while I'll do a one-woman show. This month I did not do a one-woman show because I was in America for a while. In June I'm going to Naples. So I have to obviously have a sort of daytime job, even though it is an evening job. It's English teaching.
Right.
So I work at an English school, which is so nice. It is under my house.
Wow.
So I literally walk down the stairs, do lessons, and go back.
That's even better than finding a parking space in front of your house.
Oh my God, finding a parking space in front of my house is
impossible. Just walking down and work, it's amazing.
I know. It's great. Sometimes I don't even move my car for weeks. No, it's amazing. So I work at a school. It's called Wall Street English, and we have blocks of hours, and we're in a school, and it's a really fun atmosphere. We get to have conversation lessons with themes. So I took students to do yoga the other day, and
wow.
It's a fun job. So obviously, in Rome, when you speak English, which we're lucky because we can always find work as English teacher, tour guide. The other jobs, if you're lucky, then you'll be working at the UN, FAO, or WFP. Mm-hmm. But we're lucky in that sense that we always have work. Right. I've never had problems because people leave. I mean, most of my Italian friends that I met years ago have left. They live in England or Spain. Right. Because the wages are bad. There's not enough work. And I have to say the one thing that I've never, ever had problems with in Rome is I always work. Mm-hmm. So whether it's teaching or a show or something, I have to say I've never, and I think it's because of the English thing.
But I don't think it's also because you're a very motivated person and very high energy. Because I think that's...
Thank you.
I think so. I think, you don't... It's not just... I think you married... How you say? You also married a lot...
Yes, I have a lot of
energy
and drive.
And everything.
It's true.
And it takes drive.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Because I appreciate what you're doing. And it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of energy. A lot of... it's not something that comes by itself. Because I have many friends who left Rome as well. Yeah. Expats. Because they just didn't find anything for themselves. Or they just couldn't handle certain situations. And I think you need to be able to adapt. You have to have the drive. To be also good in what you're doing. To be very organized within the chaos.
Yes, and that's true, and I am those things.
And so,
I definitely have that energy to be motivated, and I get bored easily.
Right, I got the same problem.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
When's your birthday?
Horrible. My birthday, September.
You're Virgo?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Are you very obsessive compulsive?
Yeah, mostly.
You like to have order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know very much about Virgo. You're a very chill sign. I'm a Leo, so I'm in
check all the boxes. I don't believe in the star signs and all the stuff, but I tick all the boxes.
Yes, I know. I'm into.
It's a fun game to play.
It is. I'm into astrology. I like characters. I'm not into horoscopes. I think like Paulo Fox or something, but I do like astrology because there's certain traits that we have. Yeah, not completely all, but anyways, I'm a Leo and I'm always...
Oh, okay. I think my ascendant is a Leo. Yes. As you can see,
passion
my hair.
And energy. Yes, you have the mane, the Leo mane. That's funny. So, but thanks. It's true. I think, being motivated is not just the English teacher. Is that I get bored, and when I'm bored, I have to create something new.
Right. It helps.
Or I'll get sad.
So you'd say it's a state of mind that you have, basically. Because that's why I always like to ask guests what motivates you. Like, some people also have some routines, diets, kind of things that keep you going, certain workouts that you do to stay focused, to stay high energy. But then there's a certain people, I think you're a natural who just...
Yes, I'm a go-getter. And for many years I had a hard time, I'm glad that I came to Rome. I had the space to find myself, which is, I haven't completely, I'm still working on, we all through our lives are working on ourselves and knowing who we are.
Hopefully.
But I found my voice. And that was something, when I was younger, I thought that it was fashion. And so I studied fashion at university. Because I thought my passion, because I'm really passionate about clothes and fashion and putting things together and style.
Okay.
And I worked a few years and I was bored. And then I was bored of the U.S. And so then I came to Italy. But there was still something missing. I was like, I have something creative in me, but I don't know what it is. Then I came to Rome and through, meeting... Somebody said, you have too much energy. You need to be on stage. And so I started doing acting classes. And I'm like, oh, my God, I love it. I love being in front of people. Of course, I have stage fright, but I love the energy. And then even through that, though, but I was like, oh, but it's not theater I want to do. And then comedy. And I realized as much as I hated getting on that stage for so many years, the stage fright was so bad.
Really?
Yeah, I had to drink at least 3 Proseccos.
Wow, well, that's quite okay. My first stage experience was drinking Jameson, I think.
Oh, my God. Everybody has to do that. Yeah. When you get on stage, usually it's alcohol or marijuana or something. But I had to, usually that was my set thing. And then a lot of times I had to watch, because some shows I would get drunk because then I would forget. And I'm like, I have another one. Yeah, and then you don't eat. And I've seen some of my sets where I was drunk and I'm like, that is not. You're like, I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's not good. So you learn the hard way. So you learn that, no, you should not drink before a set. But doing comedy, I felt like liberated because I'm like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And it's a beautiful feeling.
It's beautiful. It's such a rare thing such a rare gift to find your voice.
This is my voice.
Find your passion.
Oh. This is my voice. And then also my friend who also encouraged me to talk about my illness. She was like, and I was so against it. It took a year. She's like, that's your other voice, is to shared awareness. I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And now I'm so glad. And that was a hard one. That was not easy to stand in front of people and be like, I have an illness. But once you do it and you get into it, you're like, no, this is my voice. And I saw the results. I just did 2 shows in the north of Italy. Mondovi, which is outside of Torino. It was all for schools. 2 schools, I think total of 600 students. Over half signed up to donate blood.
Wow.
After my show. So that's why I was like, things like that. I was like, nope, that's my voice there too. It has to keep going.
Right. It
has to keep talking.
And do you collaborate also with hospitals or something to organize these blood donations?
I work with...
Because they should be happy about something like that. That could be great promotion for them.
Lazio is a huge disappointment. I work mostly outside of Lazio. They know about me because there's a federazione, there's a association for blood donors, and that's who usually sends me around the north of Italy, the south of Italy, whatever. But in Lazio, I've only done maybe 3 shows. They just are not organized. You know how many times they'll call, like from a hospital or a school, and they'll be like, yeah, we heard about your show. How can we make this happen? Okay, no, there's no we. You organize, and I do the show. Like, there's sometimes in Lazio, Rome, it's just so frustrating. It's very hard to work here.
It is, yes.
The mentality is just, there's just no organization. And so I had to stop because I was wasting a lot of time at the beginning sitting and helping them organize a show, and then it would not, and nothing would surface. So now when they call and they start with, how can we come up with a show? No, there is no we. You produce the show. I show up. Like, you're a musician. You're not. Yeah, of course I'm going to help. If it's at a theater, I'm going to bring people if I can. But that's not my job. Like,
no, I stopped doing that. I tell them right away, look,
So you have this problem?
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. I always say, look, what I do is I guarantee if you have a crowd, they will not leave. I will guarantee they will have fun. I will guarantee they will have the time of their lives. Or at least 90% of them will probably have that.
Yes.
And but that's my job. I'm not going to bring anybody.
No, and that's the problem because my boyfriend's also a musician.
I'm going to start losing friends, if you ask them all the time.
No, but it's just this mentality in this city is exhausting. Because my boyfriend's a musician too, and he's in a great new band now, and they can't get any gigs. So these venues are like, oh, well, you can organize it and bring. You can't bring all your friends to your. Like my comedy shows, I can't expect my friends come all the time. Like, for example, my one-woman show about my illness, everyone has already seen it.
Sure.
So if somebody's like, oh, how can we organize a show? Well, I can't make my friends come see it again. So you're going to have to produce a show. You're going to have to publicize, and I do my job.
Right. Why do you think that is, though? That
I don't know. You can tell me. It is a mystery.
You know what happened? It took my girlfriend a year and a half, and she's Dutch. To get her residency in Rome. A year and a half. And it's not that we kind of are disorganized people. We are quite organized.
A year and a half? Did they... I have to say, mine was quick. Did they come to the door?
They came to the door when we were not there, of course. But
and that's what
getting there already took over a year. It's just that we had to... appointment only online, and then they were only available after a few months. Then all of a sudden, they renovated the whole building, so nothing was possible to do. And then every time they found something else that actually needed to be done, and it's this classical. I could write probably a book about it one day.
Everyone can. The bureaucracy of Rome. Oh my God, it's so frustrating. You go crazy.
Oh yeah, I have friends who almost had gone crazy because of the bureaucracy.
You do. That's why a lot of times my comedians have to do comedy about it.
Have you seen Asterix and Obelix? The scene where they walk through the house, the madhouse.
Yes, that's it. That's it. There's sometimes that this city is love-hate. It's like moments where you're like, I want to kill everyone in this city. Because people have asked me, they're like, oh, do you like living here? I'm like, it depends on the day. Depends on the day. I don't know. But the artist scene it's hard. Musicians, I just know because my boyfriend, I can't help him. He's like, because he sees what I've created, and he's like, what kind of tips can you give me in my band? I was like, I can't, because this was, and let me tell you, these 10 years that I've done Rome's Comedy Club, they have not been easy, because as a woman foreigner dealing, and I'm sure you've dealt with venue owners that cheat you at the end of the night. I mean, do you want to talk about that? And that's why I'm like, what I've gone through. Now it's good because, they see that I bring people and stuff, and I have a written agreement, but in the past...
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Salvatore,
in the beginning, I guess we made every mistake in the book possible.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Of course, they come up with like, but not enough people drank, or not enough people came, or you agree on one price, you get half of that. Like, oh my God, for years I went through crap, because I know it's because I'm a woman and I'm a foreigner. So they're like, anyway, she probably doesn't know what it's like, so we're going to cheat her. And so, it's
actually,
frustrating.
I choose much more, I'm much more picky now when it comes to venue owners. Very often, I must say, they are either internet, like I call them Italians 2.0. So they traveled around, they speak English well, they have a different mindset. Like it's not about screwing you over, but they're willing to they understand exactly it's a risk, it's a investment they make. Yeah, it can work out, it can also not work out. Sometimes I make them understand, look, we can also do like a collaboration that grows over the future. So it's an investment, it's going to be like shares. Sometimes it goes up and down, but then maybe after 6 months you sit back, make a calculation and see if it worked out. But it's an investment. It's normally, of course, 3 out of 4 times it works. Sometimes it does not work. Depends on the location. Depends on your own
on the night
activity, on your own marketing and stuff like that. So I try to be more picky with that.
No, that's good. And now I am. Like, for example, these phone calls. When I hear "we," come possiamo? How can we? Immediately, like, you know what? Thank you so much. But I'm going to leave you to let me know when you have a place and an audience, and I come and do my show. And that's it. Then I because those other times I would meet with them and try to talk, and I'm like, no, I don't have time. I don't know what it is about this city. It's infuriating. It's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy. And then what I've created, has been shocking because it was not easy. Not easy at all. But now, because the name, it's been so many years now, it's respected. And
I mean, if somebody
now they don't
searches
get away
for
with...
comedy in Rome, you come up.
Exactly.
You're the one who comes up all the time, everywhere, from Google to Facebook
also,
to Twitter.
So they know also because I have a name, and also that now I know everything is written. I know, exactly. I'm picky now, and I'm very strict about how I want things, because I know if not, this is the problem with this city. One of the negative points is that people take advantage. You can never relax in the city.
No, you always gotta watch your back all the time.
Always gotta, and that can be exhausting.
Right.
And that is one of the negative parts of living here. It's exhausting.
So what do you do then to mediate that? How, do you get out of Rome often, or do you meditate, or is it your yoga sessions that you start?
Now I do. No, I mean, what do you do? You just deal with it. I mean, what do I deal in general with my life? I'm trying to meditate, but then I end up falling asleep. But I try every afternoon, and then I'm like, an hour later, I'm like, oh, because I have an app, and she's great. She talks me through, and then I wake up an hour later.
What are you using?
Calm,
okay.
My God, she's great because she has different themes of meditation.
Okay, it's English.
So we like how to deal with anxiety, stress, all kinds of stuff. And I love it. She's got this amazing voice of it, and I sleep. So no, I exercise. I live by Parco Caffarella, and that is my zen.
Wow.
So beautiful. Whenever I'm like, park. I'm having a mood, I just get dressed and I go to the park and have nature calms me. Going to the beach calms me. So everywhere we live, there's problems. I think this is just a Rome problem, definitely. Like, oh God, can we just love each other? Why do we have to be all backstabbing self-centered.
Ask Julius Caesar and Brutus. It's a tradition in Rome that goes back way.
I know, and that's why it's a city that is very difficult to discipline. Look at, it's so dirty and the graffiti. It's just the mentality of generations historically. Right. It's just. Mm-hmm. Not going to change anytime soon.
Although I think there's a lot of positive things happening in the city. Like, have you ever heard of Retake Rome?
Yes, I love it.
Like, I think
there's a lot.
Hopefully soon I'm going to have the founder of the movement on.
Oh, great!
And she's going to talk about that. But they, for example, they do a great job. They remove
they
tax,
clean the
city, but they work with all the institutions too. Like, they're very well organized. Their community is very, very big. Like, I think every neighborhood now in Rome has their own community of retakers.
Yes.
And they're very organized, and they also work with the universities and stuff. So it's pretty.
Rome good. Has changed a lot, but even in terms of service, back in the day, even customer service was something that, was you go to a shop and people are like, I do a lot of comedy about stuff like this, but it's changed a lot now. People are so nice in shops. A lot of them speak English.
You have to tell me later where you go shopping, because there's still a lot of places where they don't even look into your eye when they...
A lot, but there's a lot that has changed. Service has changed a lot. Even when you call, I don't know, when you have to call your phone provider and stuff, even the service that you get.
Right.
I mean, it's not perfect, but it's come a long way. And there's definitely a lot of positive things.
That's true,
They're the young generation, they're tired of stuff and they're making things happen, which is a positive effect of the negative, right? The young people are starting to be like, no, I'm going to, like what's happening in America, they're stepping up and, and doing stuff. And in Rome, there are a lot of definitely, I don't want to bang on about it, but it is a hard city.
It is.
We can make that statement. It's a hard city because it's the mentality is a tough mentality to break through. Right. And so if you can make something happen, that's a huge accomplishment. So.
Yeah, if you can make it in Rome, I suppose you can make it anywhere.
Yes, they say that about New York, but I think we need to change that.
I think they haven't been in Rome yet.
You can make it in Rome. You can make it anywhere. It's up to you. Instead of Frank Sinatra, we're going to call him and change the lyrics.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Great. So where can people find your stuff?
So I am on the Facebook, and there's a Facebook page of Rome's Comedy Club, and also Marsha Comedy de Salvatore, and I also, my one-woman show about my illness is called DM55. You can't ask what it means because you have to see the show. And so on all those pages, you can see any dates of shows coming up and reminding people about dates. We have Rome's Comedy Club May 31st at Mackay Surf and Tiki. We're going to have only one other show in June. I think it's the 24th. The last Friday of June. I'm going to be doing my one-woman comedy show in Naples, June 15th. Venue to be confirmed. And that's it. That's awesome. All. I don't do Twitter.
All right.
I'm on Instagram, Marsha Comedy. You can follow me on that. I'm very bad at social media. I'm trying. It's hard.
It's a
the
full-time
millennials,
job.
You're rocking out with it. It is very hard for someone in their late 40s. I can't, but I'm going to try. I'm going to push to do better.
Also push that. If you survive in Rome, you can also survive the social media.
Exactly. I know, if you can survive Rome, you can survive social media. Right. Okay, that's true. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and if there's anything that comes up later on, we're going to add it to the descriptions in the videos and everything, so we keep it all updated.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
So, Marsha, thank you so much for being here.
Yes,
it was great.
Has been so
I really
much
appreciate
fun.
it.
We've talked about so many different things.
Yeah. We didn't plan that, but we went all across.
I know. Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. And subscribe. It's all good.
Subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.